Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's Top Business Interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, President, degli Training. My special guest is a friend of mine, Roberto Pleitavino, who is the president of Oris Watches here in Japan. Roberto, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for this invitation.
Many people probably know about Oris Watches. It's a very old company, 1904, Holstein, Switzerland. But just give us a little bit of understanding. What sort of watches do you make? And I think you also make alarm clocks too, which is also quite special.
Yes. Oris is a company with a long history. We are celebrating this year the 120 years anniversary. We had also in our history alarm clocks, but now the company is focused on mechanical watches. So, with a mechanical automatic charge, or with the manual charge.
So it's very specific. It's always that manual aspect because it's not quartz. It's actual physical mechanical working of the watch, which is quite unique, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that the concept of the company is really this craftsmanship. So really to enjoy these mechanical watches, even if now they are not so anymore necessary, but it is something that, especially for men, we are really interested in this aspect.
And you've been in Japan a long time. And how is it that you came to Japan, been running big companies in Japan, and now you're running this one? Give us a bit of a background on your own career.
Yeah. So I'm from Italy, from North Italy, from Turin. I graduated in law there. But after a few years that I work in a local law firm, I wanted to do something much more international. And so I started an international consultancy, assisting enterprises, small medium enterprises to go abroad, to do business in foreign countries by looking for new partners, establishing joint ventures. And during my consultancy activity, I became aware of a program of the European Union that is named ETP, Executive Training Program in Japan. And I joined this program that is...
This is a program sponsored by the European Union to send young people to Japan to learn the language, to work in Japan as interns, get some experience, and really get the Japan-European Union bonds really tight. And that's been going for, when did it start? It's been going for a long, long time.
Yes, you're definitely right. That's the structure of the program. And I think that is over 30 years that is running with many people that they graduated from this EU program and they are still in Japan or doing business in Japan. Yes, it was a great opportunity to come to Japan.
It says like ETP year something or other. Which year were you? Do you remember?
I think that I was ETP 20.
20. Okay.
Yeah, and it was actually 20 years ago.
20 years in, right? So, in fact, I did some market entry talks for a couple of ETP groups. I was contracted to come in and talk about market entry because I was doing market entry with Austrade at that time. So that was my first experience to know about ETP, and I thought, wow, this is a very smart idea to get the business people understanding each other and the two countries to build a bond. So hats off to the European Union for doing that. And so ETP 20, you come here, and that must have been amazing, coming to Japan after having been raised in Turin.
Yes.
Living in Europe. So what did you think when you first got here?
But I think that the Japan is something that or you like or probably you are going to hate. I think that there are not so much something in the middle. And I have to say that I liked Japan for many things, for the business opportunities that it can gives, but also for the culture, for the society, how it's organized. So that was something that I really liked.
And so I think in that ETP program, you're studying Japanese and then you're working in Japanese companies or working in companies here anyway, as like an intern or experience, that type of thing. So is what happened?
Yeah. Actually, yes, I studied business Japanese for 1 year. And I think that it was very good because all the people that they were joining this program, we were less than 40 people from different countries. We were missing the tool of the Japanese language. So we were graduated in law, in economics, in different disciplines, but we were missing the tool of the Japanese language. So it was a very intensive study of the Japanese language. We had lectures, so probably you were one of the gentlemen that offer us these lectures. And then, yes, there was an internship. I had the chance to join Mitsui trading company. Yes. It was in the Retail Institute research section of the Mitsui training company. So it was a very interesting experience working with Japanese people for 6 months. So it was very, very unique.
It's been quite challenging because your Japanese is probably still not quite there yet.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
And so what happens after the ETP period finishes?
Yeah.
Do you stay here? Do you go back?
No, actually, I went back to Europe, and I started to work in Europe for an Italian jewelry brand. I was based in Europe, but I got the position of area manager for the Far East. So I was traveling quite often, not only to Japan, but also to other Asian countries. Then there was a point that they asked me to be transferred to Japan, to the subsidiary here in Japan, also because at that time Japan was the second market for the brand after Italy. Wow. And so I started to work in the Japanese subsidiary. I changed my position, so I became retail and sales promotion manager for Japan.
Okay, so that must have been quite challenging as well, because retail in Italy, retail in Europe, retail in Japan, quite different animals in many ways. So how did you find the adjustment of being able to understand retail in Japan?
But it took a little bit because anyway it is quite different, as you said. It is quite unique. It is also even unique compared to the other Asian countries. What was new for me was what is called the gaisho business, that is a business, especially in the department stores, to get customers that they are really not coming every day to the store, but they needed to be engaged with the events. And so also I was really surprised how many events we were organizing here to create a nice atmosphere for the customers to enjoy the shopping experience.
So gaisho is aimed for VIP, high-spending clients who've got lots of dough, and the department store teams will turn up at their house with probably a big range of possibilities they can buy, and they don't have to even visit the department store unless there's an event on. They can come, something special, and they can pick. I was amazed. I was hosting jewelry shows at the Australian Consulate General's residence when I was Australian Consul General in Osaka, and we were mainly doing Australian opals and pink diamonds and these sorts of jewelry as a promotion. And I was amazed. The lady came, she spent $30,000 just profit like that buying some pink diamond piece. I said, wow.
Yeah.
Nothing for her. She just liked her. I'd like that. I want $30,000, bang, just bought it straight away. So whoa. So I can imagine the VIP customers for gaisho, customers for department stores have got to spend it, they'll spend it. So they're a very good clientele, aren't they?
Yeah. So recently, actually, I joined an event here in Tokyo where there were some gaisho people that they brought some end users, and we were exhibiting with other watch brands, and the same customer, he bought during the same day 6 watches from different brands. So yes, in one day. Wow. I think also that perhaps he bought watches as a gifts for relatives or friends, but it was quite surprising.
So the Oris brand, I just give people a guide. What's the sort of price range from sort of average what you'd sell, maybe to high end, in roughly what's the pricing?
I would like to say that in Japanese yen is around 450,000 Japanese yen. Let's say that in euro would be a little bit less than 3,000 euro per item. So I think that they are not cheap watches, but also considering the current market and considering the quality of the manufacturing is still an affordable price for watches that they have a value and they will last probably forever.
So you're doing sales and retail management in the company. How long did you do that for?
The retail management, I think that is almost around 20 years in Japan. No, in Oris.
Like, in the company you joined, when you came, you joined them in Italy and they had you traveling around Asia. In Japan.
Yeah.
The subsidiary. So how long were you with the subsidiary in Japan?
In the subsidiary in Japan, I think that it was 2 years. I think that there was 3 years in Europe, traveling to Asia, and then 2 years in Japan for that company. Then from that company, I moved. I had a step up in a glassware company, a company that is a German company with a subsidiary here in Tokyo, and there I have been the managing director, the president of the subsidiary for around 14 years.
This was Zwiesel?
Yes, it was Zwiesel, Japan.
Again, well-established brand.
Yes.
So you're going from jewelry to glassware. I guess it's still a high-end luxury type of product, but it's quite a different business, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what was your position with Zwiesel when you went in?
The position was really to be in charge of the subsidiary here.
The president.
Yes.
So you go from being a sales and retail manager to president. That's a pretty big jump.
Yes.
How did you approach that? Because I guess for the people working in Zwiesel, they're thinking, what's this watch guy? What's this jewelry guy? Glassware. He's now the president. I don't know about this. How did you approach that to get them to follow?
Yeah. But Zwiesel is a company that is a leader in the hospitality business. But the aim was to increase the brand awareness, and that is something that you have to do in the consumers market. So I think that they saw in myself the one that could help the company to get much more brand visibility and so to enter in a better way the retail market. Still taking care of the hospitality business, but at the same time to increase the retail business and the brand awareness.
So I might be at a restaurant or a bar and I'm using Zwiesel glasses, but I don't know it.
Yeah.
Because there's glasses there inside the restaurant or inside the bar. So to try and project that this is you're drinking something special here is quite a big challenge. But as the leader coming in, how did you approach it? Did you have like a 3-month plan, 6-month plan, no plan? I mean, you've got to go from being a manager to a shocho to a president.
Yeah.
In one big bound. That's a pretty big jump. How did you approach that?
I think that it helped me anyway, the experience when I was in the jewelry brand, because when I was area sales manager for the Far East, I was doing also wholesale business. And then when I was in Japan, the retail business. So I had the knowledge of both the wholesale business and the retail business. So in the hospitality business that Zwiesel was doing, I think that my previous experience in the wholesale sector helped me to deal with the distributors and to manage that business. On the other side, the retail business experience that I had in the jewelry sector helped me to develop more the business inside the department stores and also to give a little bit more brand awareness. So I think that the previous experience helped me there. For sure, I had to learn more things, how to manage the total company, but that was really my aim to have a global overview of the company.
How many people were working in Zwiesel at that time?
There were a little bit less than 10 people because of...
Pretty compact.
Yes.
400 people.
No. I think that actually that was my desire, because in a small company like this, I really had to be hands-on on the different aspects. So, yes, doing everything. And especially, in Japan, there are not so many people that they can speak English. So many times I had really to deal with the headquarters about financial issues, about marketing, about sales, about everything, logistic.
So I guess you were mainly selling through department stores and through the wholesaling area. So you're really managing the distribution system here, I guess. The supply chain system is the main key point, right? And when you were there, you said you were there for 20 years?
In Zwiesel, 14 years.
14 years, right? So we'll come back to that in a minute. So after Zwiesel, 14 years there, then what did you do?
After Zwiesel? After Zwiesel, I had a time where I worked for a promotional company, a company that was organizing promotional loyalty programs for big retailers. That was not so long experience, but it was helping me to understand different aspects of the business. And at the same time, then I started also to do consultancy for a while. Anytime connected to the tableware business coming from Zwiesel, I had a lot of contacts there. So that was before joining Oris.
And Oris, when did you join Oris?
I just joined Oris at the beginning of the year. So yes.
Okay, so let's talk about when you, particularly with Zwiesel, because you're the president, you're coming in from outside, you're coming out of the industry, well, going from the watch industry to the glassware industry. What did you find for you worked well to get people to be engaged, to follow you?
Well, I think that you have to be an example. So if people they see at you and they see that you are trying to be respectful, to be honest, to be hardworking, to be innovative. I don't know if everyone, but many people, I think that they will understand what kind of environment you want, what kind of culture you want, and I think that they will follow you better.
And so I guess with 10 people, you can get to know each other pretty well. You probably get a fair bit of time to spend with them as well, understand what their backgrounds are, what their thinking is, what their aspirations are, that type of thing. I guess that was possible.
Yes, I think that that is possible. I think that a company is not a family. Now many companies, they say we are a family. The family is something different, I think. But anyway, we spend a lot of time in the place of work. So I think that is important to have a good relationship, atmosphere. I think that is important to show empathy to the people, because before being employees, we are human beings with all the joys and the troubles of every day. So I think that this is important to create an environment where people they feel comfortable. So I have to say that during all my years, there are still people that they stay there since the beginning, and I think that that's something that I think that is a good result when you have people that they stay with you for a long time, because I think that there is a good relationship.
And a lot of these European companies are those family companies, and so they have a different mentality to companies who are in the share market, for example, of quarterly results reporting and this type of thing. Was Zwiesel a family-run company, or was it a public company?
It's not a family business. There is just one owner now, but it came out from a management buyout. So the president is the owner now, but he has a managerial process. So also the approach is not the typical family-owned company. And yes, I think that was a good environment. The company was not listed, so I think that it helps a lot to not be subject to suddenly change or a fluctuation in the stock market. So that was, I think, a good point.
Yeah, I think that makes it easier to run companies if you have that type of a particular pressure.
Yeah.
Market pressure. And so one of the things too is, Shannon, you had good experience in Europe, traveled around Asia extensively, you've seen many things. Probably the Japanese team that you're leading, they may not even have passports.
Yeah. Yes.
They're not as exposed to what's going on in Europe or as exposed to the world maybe as you are. So there's always the point about where do the ideas come from? And often as leaders, we are often the source of the ideas, which is fine. But there's also ideas on the part of the people who work there a long time and they're in the industry and they've got good experience. What do you find work well to get the ideas out of the people?
But I think that it is important to be a good listener. So this is very important. So I think that to involve people in projects that you would like to run, or also the headquarter is aiming to run, I think that it's important to involve the local team in this, to make them understanding why you would like to run this project, and to really to make them feeling that they are part of the project. So you need help. Sometimes also, people, they are a little bit afraid to show their ideas in front of. So I had also something like to say, in the common share folder, there is a Word file. Please write down what you think that we could improve. You don't need to write your name if you don't want. But I think that that was also something that helped to get some inputs.
Why do you think people here are reluctant to come forward with ideas or put their name to ideas? What's holding them back?
But I think that sometimes there is the worry to make mistakes, and so I think that also there is important to be clear to the staff that innovation can lead at the beginning, initially can lead to failure, or not bringing the results that you were expecting, but this is a part of the process to get really something new. So it's important to see this like an opportunity for learning and for improvement. So I think that it's also important that you are not going to blame people for the mistake soon, but to understand where was the mistake, what you can do to avoid the same mistake. So I think that is important. If you explain these, if you explain why we need to do something new, or otherwise what are the negative consequences if we don't do something new, I think that people they will be much more open to accept the innovation, or to listen to the change that you want to do.
I often think about Japanese Kaizen, which is that continuous improvement. And it's interesting. I think the Japanese concept of Kaizen is that it already works well. No mistakes, no defects, no errors. It already works well. And we make it better. But this thing about, defects, problems, errors, mistakes, not acceptable in Japan. Very hard for anyone doing minimum viable product here, because from the Japanese point of view, it's got to work perfectly right away, right? So you're right. It's hard to help Japanese come out of that fear of making a mistake, being blamed for it. So they've learned, okay, the best course, say nothing. Keep my idea to myself. Don't put myself in a position. But you mentioned also that allowing people the freedom to experiment, to make mistakes, to learn is part of your management process. But, you know, how do you actually get people to believe that, you know, because they might be thinking, well, he says that. First time I make a mistake, we'll slide the head for sure. You know. How do you get them to believe it?
But I think, yes, that is important to be coherent. So when you say something to maintain what you have said and to act in the coherent way, I think that this is important. When people they look at you and they see that you are doing what you said, I think that there is the moment where the people they trust you. Unfortunately, yes, there are many cases that people for many aspects they say these, they promote innovation, but then they don't listen.
Well, that's true, is that? I mean, you know, one of the things in Dale Carnegie's Humiliation's principles, one of the principles for helping to lead people, is to, if you make a mistake yourself, admit it straight away, and also to talk about your own mistakes before you start criticizing anybody else's mistakes. So those sort of principles that help people get on better together, and by humanizing, you know, yourself, because often, you know, I'm a leader, so I have to be perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
If I admit I'm only a human being like everybody else, no one will follow me because they won't trust me or believe me. We think like that. Right?
Yeah.
But what we're saying here is that, okay, you have to start with yourself and show, you know, that you're vulnerable or you're open to admitting mistakes, and people will then see that, okay, well, he's not trying to show me he's Mr. Perfect. Yeah. And he won't accept any criticism, or he hides his own mistakes and blames everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an important thing.
Right, I totally agree with that. I mean, also in my career, some of the bosses that I had, I appreciated when sometimes they said, "I'm so sorry. Actually, this was my mistake," or something like this. That is the point where you admire someone, and also I think that is also important to reward the people in terms also when they do something well. Sometimes it's not so common in the Japanese companies to recognize this, but I think that it is important sometimes to say, really, you have done a good job, I'm proud of you. Can be really a motivation for the people to give you a new idea, to be much more propositive. It's something that you don't do every day, but I think that this is also important to motivate people to be much more open, to give their advices.
It's also related to trust.
Yeah.
So, you know, you came from outside into Zwiesel, and now you're coming here into Oris 6 months ago. What have you found works well to build trust with people?
I think that, as I said before, you should be an example. So if you show that you are trying, because anyone is not perfect. So, but anyway, you try, as I said, to be respectful, to be hard worker, to plan things, to be innovative, and then when you say something, when you plan something, you try to execute as you said. Something sometimes cannot go in the right way, but I think that this is something that get the trust. For sure, you have to show that you have the skills, you have the values, but I think that if the team they perceive these, you can gain the trust of them.
And I guess I'm just wondering too. I mean, I've visited Italy a number of times. I love going there. I haven't lived there. I spent a month in Florence and transit, but trying to learn Italian. Don't ask me anything about how that went. But I'm just wondering, is there a sort of cultural familiarity you find with the Japanese? It's Japanese orientation on family, orientation on craftsmanship, valuing the artisan, people who produce models goody, make things, is there. And also in terms of, I don't know about Italian culture and business culture around leadership, in Italian culture, is there the idea that, okay, we don't make mistakes, we learn, is there that idea that we can experiment and, it's acceptable to try stuff and fail. Is that cooked into the culture too there? So for you, as the transition from being raised in that culture to leading a Japanese team raised in their culture, was the transition not so difficult for you because of your Italian background or the way Italian business works? I don't know much about it, so I may is totally wrong. And the Italians may be really strict, really hard on mistakes, and really scolding everybody who screws up. I don't know. You have to tell me.
Yeah. But I think that in Italy there is a variety of different business approaches. Sometimes what is the image that people they get abroad is an image of many years ago, and actually now is a little bit different. Italy is also a country that is quite new as just one country, so we still have many differences related to the history process. So I think that it is not easy to answer to your question. For myself, coming from my hometown Torino, I think that there are quite many similarity with the Japanese culture, with the approach. And for sure, yes, there are different things that can help you also in the business in Japan, because in Italy many times things they are not going exactly as it was your plan. Sometimes it doesn't depend only on you; it depends on the suppliers, on the rules, on different things. So in Italy we are quite used to deal with something that is going, something that is going to happen suddenly, and so we need to find the solution. This is something that in Japan generally everything is planned since the beginning in all the different steps, and that's wonderful.
Thinking about all possibilities at the beginning, what could go wrong, anticipating, taking a long time to work.
But sometimes even if you plan all these things, something can go wrong. And there I think that the Italian flexibility to adapt to suddenly change can help in Japan when the Japanese sometimes they get really a little bit shocked. They don't know how to deal with something that suddenly is happening, and it was not planned even as option B, C. And so I think that this is helping me sometimes to try to find a solution for my team also.
If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now.
I think Australians too, raised in Australia, I think we have that too. I think in that country's case, colony of England, if something broke, you had to order it from England, so the boat takes 3 months to get there and takes another 3 months to come back with a replacement. So you got to work it out yourself, and get around that problem.
Interesting.
So I notice it with my wife, she's got very strict views on how things should work. and I've got a little bit more flexibility, and we could tweak this way, and somehow we'll make it work, which I don't see too much of that in Japan in many ways, that lack of flexibility perhaps. But in terms of culture, though, I mean, you have a very strong culture in Italy, you have a very strong culture in Switzerland, the companies originally, Oris now, for example.
Yeah.
And, I guess Zwiesel was
Germany,
right,
yeah.
German culture. And then you've got Japan, you've got Japanese culture. You've always these layers, you have the national culture of the company. You have the sort of brand culture from headquarters. Then you have your culture, the Roberto preferred culture that you want. And then you have Japanese culture. So there's always this balancing act going on between many different cultural aspects on things and how you want the company to run.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep within the umbrella of the global culture, and you start moving away from that, you're going to be in trouble straight away. But then, you've got the Japanese culture. So what did you find worked well to build a good culture?
I think that sometimes, especially when I was in Zwiesel, I think that it was good actually that I was a foreigner. I was from Europe, but I was not German, because so I had the European culture background that even if Italy and Germany, they are not the same country, but we belong to the same culture. And anyway, I lived in Japan for many years, so I acquired also many aspects of the Japanese culture. So I think that it was for me to be a good compromise between the two cultures, because the Japanese team saw me as the European guy, but not really from the headquarters, and also someone that anyway tried to understand the Japanese culture. For the headquarters, I was the European in Japan that was trying to transfer the culture of the headquarters, but not with a strong, in a strong way. And so I think that it was working quite well, because I could really try to manage to balance the different point of views that sometimes they were in conflict. And
what were those common things that came up in terms of points of conflict? I don't need to know the company's details, financials, or deeper secrets.
No.
I'm just thinking about what are some common cultural conflict points that you found when you deal?
There are very simple things. One is talking about the packaging. In Japan, the packaging is really important. Many people, sometimes they buy something because the packaging is nice. Or sometimes they like the products, but the packaging is not enough pretty to be a gift, so they give up with the purchase. For Germany, I remember that many times the packaging was something that was to protect the goods for the delivery, but it was not. Yes.
Not art.
Yes. So, there it was important to compromise, so to really make clear to German headquarters that the packaging was something that sometimes was limited our sales because it was damaged, it was not clean, something like this. On the other side, for the Japanese, it was important to say, okay, we need a packaging, but we need also to pay attention to the cost, because we cannot do something that is perfect. So we need to balance these and be happy that I convinced the headquarters to change a little bit. Perhaps it's not really what we were aiming, but is something that can give us much more opportunity. So this was something. Another example is about
I'm thinking about, it's interesting, when you go these management courses or you read the management literature, they talk about when the tray on your seat in the plane comes down and it's got the coffee stain still on the tray. You don't say, oh, look at that, they didn't clean the tray properly. the analogy they draw, the metaphor they draw is they're not fixing the engine properly. Because if they can't get this thing correct, such a simple thing, how can I trust the mechanics?
Yes.
Because obviously the culture of this company is problematic. Now we have that in our own management studies. We hear these examples. And I think the Japanese too, they see the same thing. They presume, hey, if you can't keep this right, how can we trust the quality of the goods that you're supplying to us? So we expect the quality is one standard that's consistent across all aspects of the business, from packaging to delivery to display to actual use of the product. So in all ways, it makes a lot of sense, you know. And I was at a breakfast this morning at Turk American Club, one of your colleagues from Italy, Elio Rosano, you probably know from Elio's Lacanda. He was making the point that in Japan, any fruits or vegetables that are misshaped, they're out. You know, whereas in Europe, we wouldn't do that. Australia, we wouldn't do that. But here, that has to be cucumber's got to be perfectly straight. Or tomato's got to be perfectly round or something, right? So this is the Japanese preference for perfection in things. So when you're talking about business and you take that into the packaging, it must be perfect. You know, the way things are done. If we go to the department store, you get something actually wrapped there, it's perfect. Like when they wrap that thing in paper and put a ribbon on, it is all, like everything is 100% perfect. Every time. Incredible. I can barely wrap anything, but they do it with perfection. So that thing about what they see, and they make a judgment about that, that's going to be, I can imagine headquarters. But on the other side, did headquarters ever think that, we could learn something here from the Japanese, and we could improve our packaging processes, and we could differentiate ourselves from our competitors who have a similar attitude that we've got, which is not perfectionist, and have a differentiation in markets. They ever think that way, or they just think about the cost is too high and forget it?
No, you're right. For example, I was a little bit here in Japan the pioneer for the marketing. So the subsidiary was not a big subsidiary, but the market was very important in terms also for the headquarters to learn from this market. So at that time, then I had really to develop packaging here in Japan, because the packaging coming from the headquarters was not suitable for the department stores.
So you had to repackage it in Japan?
Yes, wow. Yes. But it was something anyway that helped, because also in Germany mainly the boxes were of 6 items, because the consumers they have different use of the glasses. And so here many times we had to repack in a box of 2 items. But anyway, I was informing the headquarters of what I was doing, sending pictures, samples, and after it took quite many years, but anyway, I think that we gave some good ideas to the headquarters to improve the brand image and to have much more attention to these details. And actually, yes, a few years later, they started to be closer to us, and so to unify also the brand image around the globe. And yes, I think that it was a good learning also for the headquarters.
I think, yes, Japan is so demanding in many aspects. I always feel to myself, they say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. I think to myself, well, that's crap. If you can make it here, nobody else in the world is this demanding as the Japanese buy. If you can keep the Japanese happy, nobody else is going to be more demanding than them. So I think you probably made it if you keep the Japanese buyer happy.
Yes.
But you mentioned some other things that came up, which were some sort of conflict points or some difficult points between, some headquarters in Japan. What were some other things that came up?
But another aspect is about the quality. So I remember that sometimes the Japanese team, they were coming to me, there is this problem, and so I was asking, but how many pieces they had been broken, or they have this problem? one piece. And you know, I at that point I said, okay, one piece. I don't want to totally forget this, but we have to keep the situation under control. If it's really just a case, or if this is something that is going to repeat. Because the first thing that in Germany they are going to ask me is how many do you delivered and how many are defective or you had this problem. And really, then you see that in Japan there is not so much interest for the statistic.
No,
So, one is way too many, right?
Yes.
One is unacceptable.
Yes. Yeah. So there also is something where you have to manage the conflicts and sometimes also to make people understanding that there are different concepts. Something is is perfect, something is in the tolerance. So this is also something to explain. This is not perfect, but it's still in the tolerance. And sometimes this is something that...
Japanese, the tolerance is zero.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
this is things where the CFO does the calculations, it works out that if we have a 0 defect rate, we'll make this much money. If we have a 3% defect rate, we'll make this much money. For them, it's obvious.
Yeah.
We'll have a 3% defect rate and make more money. But from a Japanese point of view, no one here thinks like that.
Yeah.
No CFO in Japan says, right, I've done the calculations. You have a 3% defect rate. We'll be making more dough. Let's go for the 3% defect rate. It's like, no. We go for 0. And we keep 0 all the time. So and this comes back to the trust, doesn't it? The trust of the consumer or the buyer of the company, because they feel this is not about one broken item. This is about breaking the trust.
Yeah.
We represent the company, and if we find this problem in one, what about the others? Are we going to have a problem where we break the trust with the buyer down the road because there are other issues or things we don't see get broken and are delivered, and then we find out about later, which for them is a disaster. So the trust aspect and the long-term relationship of the business and not about the short-term profit, that mix is quite strong here. Yeah. So I can see why that would be an issue.
Yeah. I think that anyway, you need also to make understanding that the perfection is not anywhere. We have also various examples also of Japanese companies that sometimes they get in troubles. I think that it is important to show how much you deal with the problems. I think that this is important to show to the team, to show to the customers that anyway you are dealing with the problem. You are trying to find a solution, and I think that they are perhaps at the beginning. There is this strong approach for the perfection. You have to recheck everything, but when you show that you are dealing with the problem, that you will assure that you will do all you have in your possibilities to avoid similar things. At the end, I think that they understand about this.
And you mentioned about that packaging, this area, breakages and whatever. Any other things that came up between headquarters and Japan?
I think that sometimes perhaps the headquarters doesn't feel so much engagement from the Japanese team, but I think that also this is sometimes a cultural approach. I mean, the Japanese people, they don't show so much the emotion, they don't express a big excitement as in other countries, and you have to consider these. Sometimes this is in the culture. But anyway, if you gain the trust of the people, I think that they will follow you. And sometimes also too, they are a little bit shy, so they do something, but they don't show so much what they have done. And this is sometimes something that from the headquarters is perceived as something that is not an entity that perhaps is not acting as they would like. So it's important, I think, also for the person that is in charge of the subsidiary to show what your team is doing, and perhaps for this cultural heritage, they are not good to to show up so much.
Actually, as a training company, we get asked a lot to work on executive presence and also on their English. And I don't mean English in terms of correcting their grammar, vocabulary or pronunciation, but their confidence of speaking in English. Because often what we find is they've got all the basics of it. They're good, but as you say, they're shy, or their voice is weak, or they can't bring any passion into the content, and the headquarters interpretation is, they're not engaged, they're not passionate, they're not interested. What's Roberto doing over there? He's obviously doing a good job, because look at these people and they're meeting. And so often we do training for that, and often it is just purely voice modulation. I remember once I was doing some training, big German industrial company. We're all engineers, and it was a demo class. So no one volunteers, of course, so I volunteered one guy. And he'd come up, and I said, just introduce yourself and tell everybody which section you work in and what do you do. Very simple, right? Say, about strength of about 5% in the voice, So we'll just double it. So it takes it to like 6%, But I just kept on asking, double it, until he got to a point where my name is blah, 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 I do da-di-da-di-da, like that.
Yeah.
Total transformation in how that guy came across to everybody. And all it was just demonstrating a bit more passion, energy, confidence, volume, voice strength in the meeting in England. In this case, we're doing it, in Japanese, but it was very innocent.
No, but
such a simple little change. And it switched his image completely.
Yeah.
So yes, I think often Japanese, they get that little bit of help, they can change. And with particular problem, the same thing. How to stand, how to bring your eye contact and gestures and passion and voice to the one point. At that point in the talk. So when you think about, you've been here a long time, you've had lots of good experiences here. If you think about someone called you up and said, hey, Roberto, I've been given the big job in Japan. They're sending me out there to run an operation. I don't speak Japanese, I don't know Japan, Roberto. What can I do to be an effective leader? What advice would you give them?
But something that I would like to say is to talk to many people like me, living and working in Japan for many years, if it's possible from different industries also, and to get to understand what they had to face and how they try to solve the problems. What I would say is that don't copy the leadership style of the others. Don't force yourself to be something different from what you are, because you heard that in Japan someone is saying to you, you have to shout to your employees because this is the only way. Someone is saying something different. I think that is important that you find in your personality the aspects that can help you to lead in Japan without feeling too much stress, because if you try to copy someone else and it is different from what you are, I think that will be a stressful situation. So I think that this is important. This is what I have done when I came to Japan with the ATP. I started to talk to the senpai, to the people that they have done the EU program before me, from different people. You try perhaps to contact the one that you think they have more similarity to you for the career, for the sector where they are.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. Active leaders in Japan, from a broad spectrum of industries, Japanese leaders, foreign leaders, big companies, small companies, and get them talking about leading. You can get an incredible amount of information before you even think about getting on a plane and going anywhere. And I guess, I wrote a book called Japan Business Mastery to try and update how business is done here, because Japan sort of went underground for about 30 years after the bubble burst, and everybody's China, and no one was writing about that anymore, to try and educate people a bit. So you come here, you're going to be more successful. So apart from your advice on watching this video, what are some other things they could do?
You mean to adapt to?
Yeah, to be effective as a leader here when you're running the operation in Japan.
I think that it's important also to, there are some people that they come to Japan and in a few days they think that they understood everything about Japan. So I think that Japan is something that is surprising you every day. I don't know if you feel the same, even if you stay here for so many years. And I think that this is what is interesting in Japan, what is fun of living and working in Japan, that even if you stay here for many years, you have still things to learn. The other thing is, I think that when you lead in Japan, in a Japanese team, it's also important that you identify in your team someone that is closer to share the same value of you, or is much more open to follow you, and so to use is not so nice word, but anyway, to cooperate with these individuals to establish your leadership in the company, because I think that this is very important in Japan to convince the group, and so if you have someone that is sharing your vision inside the team, can really help you to spread out this culture.
Any other advice you'd give them? Should they learn Japanese language?
But I think that if you can learn Japanese language is an advance. It depends also how will be your career. If you will stay in Japan only for a few years, is a very big effort to study Japanese and working. Honestly speaking, when I have
learning how to read,
it takes enormous effort.
Yes.
We have 52 symbols in English, 26 uppercase and 26 lowercase to learn, and that's it. You could read anything.
Yeah.
But Japan, you need at least 3,000 kanji to read a newspaper, so it's a vastly different.
Yes. Yeah. I think that if you plan to stay only a few years, it's important to learn a little bit of Japanese, just anyway, perhaps to break the ice when you talk to Japanese, to make Japanese a little bit more relaxed in a discussion, in a meeting. I think that is something that you show that you try to meet their culture. So this is, I think, something that it would be nice if you can learn like that. Otherwise, I think that if you really plan to have a career here, would be better to speak the language. But anyway, it's a big effort. So I think that I've been lucky with the ETP program to learn Japanese, because at the time I was mainly concentrated on the language only. So
I always think they tell me that Maori, the language of New Zealand, Maori, the vowel pronunciation is very much the same as Japanese. I think maybe Italian too, the vowel sounds are quite close. So maybe, from an Italian speaker's point of view, the actual speaking part is maybe, I remember when I was learning Japanese, trying to get my mouth to reshape, I'd studied Chinese at university. That was trying to get my mouth to reshape to get the Chinese sounds, and then do the same thing to get the mouth changed direction or something. The sound was a nightmare, but anyway, still working on it all these years later.
No, you're right. Italian, I think that for the pronunciation, it helps to speak Japanese, and on the opposite, I think that the Japanese people also, when they go to Italy, they can read. They will not understand the meaning, but mainly they can read because it's a flat pronunciation, and so yes, I think that sometimes there are some experts that they can help.
Are there any things that you've found in your career, sort of habits you've formed, or disciplines you've adopted, or techniques you've called upon to help yourself be more successful as a business person?
I think, as I said before, to be more myself, because sometimes when I came to Japan, especially when I got the position of president of Zwiesel, Japan, you think about the leaders that you had before, how they were doing business, how they were dealing, and sometimes I tried, as I said, to copy or to imitate some of them, but I realized there that it was not myself, so I was doing something that was not so good sometimes. Also, I was dealing with the people, and then you really feel stressed because you have done something that later you are not happy. How was your attitude? Just because you were thinking to do as you saw a leader that was doing that in Japan. So I tried to be more myself, and to, as I said before, to try the way to deal in Japan using my personality that is fitting more the Japanese style. I mean, I have my own style, but I can match with the Japanese business culture.
What about resilience? Because business is up and down. I mean, we've had, Japan, we're always having natural disasters. I mean, we've had in Tokyo any number of earthquakes over the last, maybe half a year. Like you're constantly having earthquakes all the time. And you're always thinking, oh my God, is this the big one? It's going to wipe out Tokyo. Is this the one? And then it's not the one. You keep going, But your brain is thinking, this is the one. So there's always that stress there. And then you do have major earthquakes, and you do have, typhoons and cyclones, and you do have landslides, and all this sort of stuff goes on here. And then in business, you have recessions, and you have wars. Who can think you've got a land war in Europe? You've got a war in the Middle East. But, a volcano goes off somewhere, the whole airline industry is in big trouble. What things have you found has helped you to be resilient through hard times?
What I can say is that when you look to the long term, you see that things, they have a natural way of moving. So sometimes there are situations where you really feel that is something that you don't know how to manage. This seems impossible to solve that situation. But then when you learn, when you become a little bit older and you see things in a long period of time, you see that there are these fluctuation, and so you have to accept that to try to do your best in that situation. I think that there was a quote that was saying, you cannot decide the way of the wind, especially when you sail in a boat, but you can adjust the sailing. So I think that's important.
So if we were going to come up with your definition of leadership, what would your definition of leadership be? How do you define leadership?
I think that a true leader is someone that people, they can trust, they can follow for how this person is acting, for the value, for the skills, not only for the position that he or she is covering. I think that the true leader is something like this. I remember, for example, that when I was young, I joined the military force in Italy. And at the beginning, we had a training of 3 months. And I was one of the oldest guy. I was almost ready to graduate from the university. And so I was appointed as the platoon leader. And I had to lead for just 3 months, but around 80 people. And what was good is that at the end of the 3 months, my appointment was terminated. So I became a regular army guy, like also the others. but the team members of my platoon, they were still respecting me. They were still looking in me for someone that could help them, that could give the advices. So that was a very nice satisfaction, because even if I didn't have anymore my military ranks on my shoulders, I still was a point of reference for these people. So I think that that was really something that made me happy, proud.
Well, Roberto, thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you very much.
Discussion. Thank you. Really learned a lot here today.
Me too. I think that really it was a very nice discussion, because also you gave me additional inputs also for my career. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.